come in and stay throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
This will be completely full on a weekend, but during the weekdays there aren't nearly as many people out here. So there's general water courses throughout this area. This is a lot of, this is actually the highest point in Dallas County, this particular park area. And so any rainfall that we get does drain down into Joco Lake. But one of the things about Texas is all of the lakes in the state of Texas, excepting one, are man-made. We have a sewer dump station for people who don't have a full hookup campsite that has a direct sewer drop where they can actually put a hose into it, is what that is.
Overnight camping only.
So we have day use areas that campers and our day users can use, and then we have overnight camping. So I said we had 350 campsites. Each of these numbered sites that you see is one of those. So they all have picnic tables, fire rings, electricity, sewer hookups on this type of it, and drinkable water. So, more frequently than what happens. Unfortunately, we have clay soils out here, and the soil type is, we call them hydromorphic soils. They are very expansive, and unfortunately it results in a lot of cracks in the roads. The roadways are maintained by the Texas Department of Transportation, and so it has to be something that they have funding for as well to maintain. So we would like to do them more frequently with Parks and Wildlife budget. It doesn't happen as often as we'd like. But all of them have to be redone normally at least after about 25 years. Yes, but they need it before then, but that's the break point when they must be done.
Do you have issues with mosquito breeding?
Some places will. This particular park we don't, because we have enough good drainage and airflow through here. However, it is something that they will caution people about in the coastal areas. But as a state parks do not spray for mosquitoes.
Okay.
Because while yes, we have the issues with mosquitoes, and yes, we do not want anyone to get bit, the hazard to the remainder of the wildlife and other insects that would be killed if we did mosquito spraying is a higher hazard. So because we are very, very lucky that we do not have, this is not a country with common malaria, we don't have dengue, we don't have chikungunya is starting to show up in the coastal areas, and West Nile is unfortunately something that we do have. So we are getting more mosquito-borne diseases, but they're controllable with personal spraying and personal protection on the part of the customer. So we do not, we are putting more precedence over the wildlife safety in that case. However, we do treat for an invasive ant out here. It's Argentine ant.
Argentine.
There are two types that we've had issues. Well, we used to treat for fire ants. I would rather have fire ants than Argentine ants.
Oh, really? How is the Argentine
So, Argentina ants get into and destroy electrical pedestals. So they are not a biting ant, but they swarm, and they are one that is an invasive that's been in the United States for not too long, so there isn't a good control method for it, so we do have to treat for those, because otherwise they will infest within hours. Someone's RV, cars, so we do treat for those because we would have to shut the park if we didn't.
Oh.
Yes. Fire ants, I would rather have invasive fire ants than invasive Argentines because fire ants make mounds and you can see where they are and you can avoid them.
Full scene here.
Mm-hmm.
So all the camping sites are the same price?
They're either $25 a night or $30 a night.
Ah, okay. Not so much different.
One just has the sewer hookup, one does not. So you can see that actually just recently mown in here. So we have some areas that we were driving through that you saw that we just mow the road shoulder. Some areas that are designed to be for day use and picnicking, then we do mow. One of the things you'll notice throughout the park, you see where we've got red tops on some of the picnic tables and just the poles on the others?
Yeah.
We were flooded in 2015. We had 16 feet of floodwater. So unfortunately, where you see that they're missing, the floodwater washed them away.
Ah, that's why.
And unfortunately, that's not something that I have the budget to replace. So we're waiting until we're in the process of redesigning this day use area with some funding that the Texas legislature, the governor gave us to do repairs for flooding. And so we will be replacing those picnic tables at that time. But with the funding that we have, now the table is still functional, so it's not an efficient use of funds to replace them. It's not attractive, but they work.
Still work.
So we're coming into one of our designated swim beach areas, and if you guys want to get out at any of these points, just let me know, and then I'll get you the bug spray. So they haven't mowed over here yet. So you see the buoy line that we have across there? That is for the designated beach area. We have the buoy line to prevent boaters from coming in there. Because that's a popular area for people to swim that had the youngest children, because there's no dogs allowed in the area, no fishing allowed, and no boaters. That way, if you have a very small child, then it's a little bit safer area for them to swim. It only goes to about 4 to 5 feet almost at the buoy line. It's very, very shallow. And then a covered pavilion area, more parking, people fishing down here. And then that is actually the dam for Joe Pool Lake.
Yeah.
So it's an earthen dam, concrete topped. You'll see also we had the building that we went by when I was telling you about the flood damages, and then these buildings over here look different because we used to have regular restroom buildings and a playground over here, but those were destroyed in the flooding. So these were buildings that were purchased by our regional staff in order to allow us to reopen this area while we're waiting to do the full rebuild.
So they're just temporary.
Correct. They'll be here probably another 3 years. Yeah, when we do long projects for construction, big projects, it's on generally about a 5-year cycle. 1 year they're doing the funding appropriation, then it takes about a year design, and then we do the construction itself after the bidding process, and then wrapping everything up. So big projects like this area will be all told 5 years. But we have to have restroom facilities in these day use areas for, you know, the kind of customers that we have.
Yeah.
So especially over here where you're going to have small children doing their swimming, then you definitely need to have restrooms. I don't worry about it as much in areas where you're only going to have, you know, smaller groups or adults, because those folks, you know, have the ability to go a little bit longer in between bathroom breaks, so, you know, they don't have to be as close together.
How was the waste generated during the flood?
How was what?
The waste generated.
So we had, all of it was just drainage. We had feet of rain that fell instead of, you know, we would get 30-something inches of rain over the course of 12 months. we got over 30 something inches of rain over the course of a month. So everything drained here into this lake, and this was actually built for flood control.
This one?
This particular lake, yes.
Okay.
And so this is part of the Trinity River Valley, and we are the first beginning of the flood control system. So when other lakes further downstream are flooded, then they have to keep water in this lake. So that's actually, so I said that we were leasing this land from the federal government. That's part of the land use agreement that we have with the federal government that built this lake, is that they can flood it when they need to. So they put parks around those lakes instead of having houses. That way they can flood it when they need to. So this area we used to have a marina at, and it did get damaged in the flooding. So you'll still see some areas that we're still working on, but we're very happy to have as much of it back open as we have. And then even on a Monday, there are people putting their boats in the water.
But during the flooding, there was a need for cleanup, right?
Well, because we were still underwater. So once the water receded, then our park staff did the cleanup. But it's a slow process because we're still open to the public. So we had some areas closed and working on cleanup, some areas that were open to the public that, we would then have to clean the restrooms, mow the campsites. So it is a very slow process trying to make sure that we can get everything back up and running with the staff and the funding that we have.
So how was the waste handled during the cleanup? Like,
so most of what ended up coming, trees. What we'll end up doing out here is we have a large chipper, and we use the trees that get chipped up. We'll move a large dump truck and chip into the dump truck, and then use the wood chips to top some of the campsites.
What about
So-
the other, like the roofs?
Yeah, so the non-organic waste, unfortunately, that did end up going to landfills. So now, when there's a wildfire that starts, it's in areas that are thick like that, or worse, that have, bigger trees, and, you have 100 feet tall of all of that junk. So those fires are the ones that you see in the news that have taken over and end up being thousands of acres and moving into people's homes. So now we've learned that you need to use fire
As a management tool.
exactly, because if we can do fire through these areas, when we have staff members to keep it as, we know we're only going to do 50 acres. We know we're going to try and ring it. We pick the day that we start it, then we can take out all of this underbrush, the stuff that allows the fire. They're what's called ladder fuels. It allows the fire to climb the ladder up into the tops of the trees. So we take out the ladder fuels and reduce the fuel load, so when a fire does come through as a wildfire, it's a much cooler fire. There's less fuel for it to burn, and then it's going to be a less dangerous fire. So by doing prescribed burning, you're actually reducing the risk of a deadly wildfire. So since the 90s or so, they finally have started doing that, and there's studies that they've done in a number of different locations, including in Texas State Parks, showing areas that have regrown before and after prescribed fires, and areas that have been burned are able to pop back so much easier. Because the other thing that happens too is if you have a fire that is a wildfire instead of a prescribed fire, sometimes they get so hot because there's so much fuel burning that the soil gets sterilized, and it actually kills all of your seed bank.
Right.
So if we do it when it is, in a managed condition, then yes, it burns, but it's not burning out of control, and then the seeds are able to grow back in.